Welcome to this experience with Viola Rose, who I invited to join me today for a conscious conversation. Viola and myself have been very much on the same page since the very beginning of my exploration of exit and reincarnation subject. As a matter of fact, she was the one who brought to my attention the post that she kept going on since 2015. And I learned a lot from that post. And interestingly enough, 2015 was when I too tapped into this subject, the subject of entrapment, the subject of exit and reincarnation, the subject of archonic realities and the matrix, and all of that started unfolding for me since 2015. And interestingly enough, Viola showed me her post in 2023. I saw it that she kept alive since 2015. Viola is a transformational sound artist. She is a very talented sound healer. She's been a part of my retreats that I offer, where I offer workshops and teach, and Viola helps people integrate and ground, and also sometimes go into theta waves with the instruments that she uses. Viola also is a facilitator of the Illuminated Heart workshops, and you can find out more about her in the link. I'll put that link in the description to her website. Viola has been a part of my Exit and Reincarnation group, and we had many fascinating discussions in person. And so I wanted to invite her today for us to have a free flow conversation. This is not a podcast. We're kind of going to interview each other and see where this conversation goes so that people who are perhaps uncomfortable discussing this subject or feeling that these subjects might be a little off or a little taboo or a little too controversial can experience what it is like to be on the same page with someone. So, Viola, I want to start by asking you, in 2015, when you made that post that you kept alive for 10 years now, um, where I learned a lot, and that incredible clip from Star Wars Voyager, where Jane is talking to the Archon, that's been all over the internet now. I saw that for the very first time there. That's very showing, very telling about the subject. But how did that subject come up for you to make that post and for you to gather all of that attention and information with that incredible post?
Mm. Thanks. So first of all, I'll just say to preface to say that in 2015, I made a post about don't go into the light. There's a trap here, and I think I had started to stumble upon little hints of information about that since about 2010 or 2011.
Mm,
There was a guy who was on the sort of metaphysical scene a while back, George Kavasilis, and he had said something. He was the first person I ever heard say it in about 2011. And it just, something about it, just kind of registered for me. And so I continued to hear just a little bit. Cameron Day said a couple things here and there. And then in 2015, I decided I really wanted to look into it. And there wasn't a whole lot on the internet at the time that I could
yeah.
find, but I did find one summary of the Tibetan Book of the Dead that kind of
Mm,
got a little bit into that. And I made a post about it on Facebook. And then anytime anything else would come up about the subject, just from my own records, I would
mm,
make a comment under that post. And so,
mm.
so anytime, and it had gone on for years and years, and I was collecting data on this subject.
Wow.
And so in 2023, when your book came out, I stumbled upon it right when it first came out.
Right.
And so I read it and was like, oh my gosh, like here's more information, and was so moved by it that I made a post under as a comment under
Yeah.
that thread posting about your work and your book that had just come out. And we lived near each other. And so, I think we had been in each other's orbit and had met a couple times. And so we were already Facebook friends. So I had tagged you, I think, in that
Yeah.
comment. And so you saw it. And then you looked up and saw years of my documentation of this
Yeah.
subject, including that Star Trek scene with Jane, Captain Jane, and the Archons. And so that's what Isabella is referring to. And so I think it's just been an interest of mine for a long time because as soon as I heard it, something was just like, yes,
Yeah.
there's more to this. There is there because everything here is so inverted that of course it
Right.
would make sense that if everybody is telling you to go to the light, go to the light, go to the light, that is something to be absolutely questioned, dissected, and really truly flipped upside down and looked at.
Great couple of points there, and hold that point about things being inverted because I want to address that in a minute. But I want to mention that interestingly enough, my experience with the same idea just entered, and I can't even tell you how I came across that information. I just, in 2015, somehow realized that everything is inverted and a trap, and reincarnation is false, and light is false, and whatever things happen in the afterlife are not true. Oh, there's something to it. And so I had a regression. I had a regression. A lot is to be said about regressions, but I went to the practitioner who did the quantum healing hypnosis based on Dolores Cannon's style. And specifically, I wanted to ask my higher self, my essence, was any of this true? And if it was, how could I get out? Or did I need a permission? Did I need some sort of authority to authorize me to get out? At that point in 2015, 10 years almost before I wrote my book in 2023, I had an idea, very much brainwashed, same as a lot of us are here, that you need some sort of permission, you need some sort of authority to allow you to leave, to allow you to get out. And so I went into I went under hypnosis to find out. And interestingly enough, my non physical aspect of my higher essence confirmed all I got was yes, this is accurate. Yes, this is correct. Yes, it is an entrapment. And can I get out? And I was saying, can I make a contract? Can I make an agreement with you, my higher essence, to let me go? And the message that I got back was, it's the same as making an agreement with your own self. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need this kind of contract or anything. You are making an agreement with your own self. So I brought that back, and I um, made a video in 2015, how to exit reincarnation cycle, and that was the beginning. And then it took another, however, 8 years till 2023 until I put everything that came in since that moment into a book. And there were also other experiences that I had prior to that that I didn't link to the whole subject, but then they all started linking together. So on the subject of things being inverted.
First of all, before we go there, I just want to comment
Okay.
something amazing. And that is all that collecting that I had been doing for all
Yeah.
the time, this curiosity and finding little bits of information here and there, and then even looking into like Nag Hammadi scriptures and
Yeah.
and whatnot, right? But like the fact that you had just written this book and you knew none of these other resources,
Yeah.
and you weren't basing your work on anything outside of yourself. And like we said earlier, like you didn't even know all this information was there. When you saw my post, you were like, oh my God, other people are talking about this.
Yeah.
So everything that you wrote in your book was firsthand experience on your end, and you just knew that you needed to share this with the world. And that to me is such a unique piece of this whole puzzle, of this whole field of work that is becoming in so strong now, is that yours came purely from your own experience, not from speculation. And so I think that's one of the reasons I was so excited about it and how valuable I think it is within this whole spectrum.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, when I wrote the inspiration to write the book, Leaving the Trap, we're talking about my book, Leaving the Trap here. This one. That's my first book there. Um, there's been a second book since, but the first book, Leaving the Trap, pretty much wrote itself. In 2023, I had the feeling that there is an urgency that I need to put this material out there, that I have all these bits and pieces of information based on my experience, and they need to come out now. I literally sat on that for what, 8 years, and there was not even a concept, not even an idea that I'm going to do any of that. I wasn't planning to write a book or anything, but it kind of just the guidance got so strong that you need to do this now. And so I did. And then I started getting all this feedback. Oh, there is Howdy Makovsky. There is Robert Monroe who mentioned delusion and the entrapment system. There's David Icke who wrote the Trap and the Dream, and now the Reveal too, where he mentions the same or similar. I was floored. I thought I was the only lonely voice, and then my information based on my experiences and my little book was just going to be out there because I got a feeling that I need to put it out there. But it turned out to be something that not only others spoke about, but it, as you just mentioned, it did catch up the whole lot since, and now it's massive everywhere, all over the YouTube. And you just mentioned Nagamari texts, and I was going to mention Nagamari texts too, in relation to things being inverted. Because right there in one of the chapters, when the false gods or the ones who created this whole experience, this whole simulation to utilize the human race as their battery source of energy, they literally said, let us, well, I might not be quoting it correctly, but the meaning is that let us confuse them by presenting what's good as bad and what's bad as good. And in that way, they will never find the way out. And that way, they will always be running in their confusion. And that's been on my mind. I mean, look at all the stuff that's happening. Even the ancient symbols,
Mm.
the Merkaba symbol, right? You teach the Merkaba, and the Merkaba symbol, you show it to anyone, they're going to say, what? Oh, it's the flag of Israel, right?
Yeah.
Or some other stuff. Or but my symbol here right there, I created that symbol. I visualized and created that symbol to represent the way out of the loop. If you look at it, that shows the loop, and then it goes right out. Now everyone is saying, oh, that's the meta or whatever else. They took the infinity symbol, that ancient symbol, and inverted it. We got telepathy. Everything is just being so telepathy. The what's his name? Elon Musk's technology or whatever that he's calling telepathy. So they literally taken concepts that are good and right and truly spiritual from the very core, and turning them on something that is absolutely bogus or has nothing to do with the original essence of these symbols or of these concepts, like telepathy, for example. So it's happening to this day. It's happening to this day. And you see that a lot on YouTube. You see that a lot on different channels where uh, a little bit like the words that are used are correct words, but the meaning behind them, or what they're bringing with the meaning behind them, is all inverted. So we are in that, and we're in that from the beginning of times, from the Nag Hammadi texts.
I
You
feel like
can,
we're in it in all ways too. Like,
yeah,
not, it's like everything, it's everywhere. Like, what is presented as food is really not food.
yeah,
What is presented as natural, even with like fabrics, is like
yeah,
synthetic. What is, our
yeah,
skies are being sprayed with synthetic. Like, it's everywhere. And unless a person were to really, truly become like superior level existential detective, like it's going to be really hard to navigate it because we're so flooded with illusions and
yeah,
simulated reality now, even more so with AI, that it becomes a web that is so hard to break through. And so the people who are already on the path trying to find their way, have a heads up. And I love that you're providing, and both of us are providing, tools that people can utilize to maybe get their path going in the right
yeah,
direction. But the inversion is just about 100%. And like everything being squares and cubes, and in nature, everything is green and lush and curves and whatnot. So it's just a whole other reality. And part of my passion
yeah,
is staying organic, staying
yeah.
human. So we can
Yeah.
talk about that later, in our talk, perhaps, about ways to stay human and stay organic.
Yeah, we definitely need to stay on the organic timeline. I agree with that 100% because, well, now my focus is how to exit is this entrapment structure that is a reincarnation system, and the new technologically modified body vehicle that is going to be created, is already created, is going to limit the natural human even more. So I have received a number of downloads or tapping into this kind of information recently, and there is a sense of urgency. We need to get out of the simulation at the end of this lifetime, because not only that they are creating the modified, technologically modified body vehicles that will be operated by AI more and more, but literally, if we take the next incarnation into the human experience after, at the end of this lifetime, so that's, let's say, I don't know, for different people, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, right? The human body vehicle will be so modified that you will be cut off from your abilities even more, because when you have microchips in your brain that plugs you into the system that is focused on and amplifies left brain function, and diminishes the natural, organic, human, supernatural, so-called, or paranormal abilities of the right hemisphere of the brain. And um, that, first of all, would not give the opportunity for the new human in that body vehicle, incarnated into that body vehicle, to tap even into the awareness that they need to get out. And additionally, now on the internet, they're all saying, oh, this old reincarnation structure is getting dismantled. And so I tuned into that. And what I got back was not pretty. What I got was that, yes, because too many humans figured it out. We
Mm.
have the 12 dimensions of the matrix. And by the way, Darius Wright, with his pictures, with his visuals, he shows us all these 12 dimensions, but he is showing the dimensions of the matrix. This is what I posit because he is astral projecting. But we can base our knowing of the structure not on my personal astral projections but on his as well, because he's doing the same thing that I did when I was a teenager till I was about 23, 24. In any case, so these dimensions are getting dismantled in favor of a bulletproof system that would not allow us to get out, because humans have figured out too much. We have learned how to explore that system. We have learned that the archons run in that system. We have learned what it's all for, what it's all about, and we have found the loopholes of the ways to get out. And so they are not happy with that. That was the information that I received. And so in addition to the technologically modified body vehicle, we also have in common the entirely new entrapment structure where they would not have to work so hard, so to speak. Where the archons, so the ones, the handlers, the ones who are running the system, will not need to do anything. It will all be in a way that they will still collect the loot they need, and they will not need to constantly counteract human beings, tapping into their abilities, finding out how to get out, evolving past the ideas of entrapment or what keeps them entrapped. So all of that is going to go, and are going to on Earth have the system that what I got was will keep the ones present forever. Like you literally would not have the opportunity to get out. This is something that has come in a number of times because I wanted to, when I first got that information, like, oh my God, what's happening? And then all other teachers or many other teachers on the internet saying, oh, forget about it, the reincarnation entrapment structure, the matrix multidimensional layers are getting restructured or they're getting rid of it. Yeah, they are, but do you really think they're going to let go of this rich source of life force for them that humanity is, and just, oh, let's just let it go and we will just dismantle? I don't think so. I really do not think so. So the information that I have received is what I just shared. And so I encourage everyone to really focus on being organic, on finding the truth, on training to exit the system of entrapment, because I think that the sense of urgency that I have is because we don't have anything past this lifetime. And again, this could be 30, 40, 50 years for people, but still, if you don't want to, if you don't like it here, and if you don't want to be on Earth for eternity, this lifetime is when we need to make our exit, because the system is in transition and it's not going to be, and the exit is not going to be available once they upgrade it and the new body vehicles are there.
This is
So that,
this is profound. This is really amazing to hear you speak so clearly about it, I have heard this from just a few other sources as well
ah,
in similar ways. Howdy
Wow.
Mikowski talks about this. Lelita Caroli is talking about this. And it is a sense that I have as well. Like it's kind of now or never. Like there, we're
Yeah.
going so much deeper into the simulation, into the interdimensional levels with the lattice work that will be enmeshed more and more. And
Yeah.
people disconnecting from their souls by
Yeah.
pharmaceutical treatments and all and other ways that it just when you don't have the connection to the part of you that exists outside of this matrix construct, then where's your tether and your thread in order to get out? You
Yeah.
become just part of it. And we're going deeper and deeper in with the AI and all these things that what you're saying sounds totally right on to me. And that it's now, it's this lifetime, it's all hands on deck. It's why so many people are here and trying to figure this out. And it would make sense too to me what you said, how they keep figuring it out, because look how popular this topic
Yeah.
has become. People are questioning this, they are figuring it out. And, just like the analogy of that show, The Good Place. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
Oh yeah, I heard of it. I heard of it. I
the
did.
show is
Yeah.
about this. And then once they figure it out, boom, they press the reset button and they start
Mm-hmm.
over again. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's that sort of soft disclosure about kind of maybe what's going on here. And that so many people are figuring it out, that they keep evolving the system to make it more complex, just like any farmer would do if his chickens were getting
Yes.
out of the coop. And you continue to build a stronger net or, fence or something. And so
Yeah.
this is now. And so you and I are both talking about ways to how to prepare
Yeah.
for this to make this transition. How do we claim our freedom and
Yeah.
how do we actually navigate through this lattice, whatever grid, matrix, prison planet thing? And so this is what would also be really interesting in this conversation that we're having together, because we have similar, complementary, but also slightly different approaches
Yeah.
to our focus, our main focus anyway. I'm sure we're both doing both of the things and whatnot, but like the main focus of work, mine is going into my heart. Like that
Yeah.
is the way in. I reject anything external and I'm going to go in because there is an infinite field here. There's like an infinite sun
For sure.
within. And like Birkeland currents, which are in the universe where they have found that once you go through into any sun, you can go into any other sun. And there's
Mm.
ways to link to get to travel. And if I have a sun directly here in my infinite space within my heart, and I go within, there's my path to freedom. And so that has been sort of what I've been teaching and what I've been practicing. And I know that your way, I'll let you talk about it as well, is a different method, but possibly leads to the same place. And that I would think would be interesting for us to talk about and see if we think it is leading to the same place.
No, I'm pretty sure that it's leading to the same place, but it's also what I teach is also about going within. You are the access point to the true fabric of divinity. You are the access point. It's
Mhm.
not out there. And it could be you can enter it through the heart like you do because you have learned this technique to go through that heart chakra and connect to the portal of the sun that you have within, and it's all connected to other portals. I don't know much about it, but that's what it sounds like. And when we did that meditation in your workshop at Sedona Yoga Festival, I experienced direct access into the cosmos, into that primordial, constantly almond field through dropping into the heart and observing that space. And I was blown away because I really did not use this technique and I had no idea about that. But it is also what I teach is also dr- connecting with the innermost essence of yourself. You can access it in a different way. The way I teach it is to have an outer body experience and go into it, but not the outer body experience in the way of astral projection, like what Darius Wright teaches as astral projection. But And that he calls it an out of body experience. And why I bring him up is because he's all over the internet now, like the biggest out of body experiencer. But what he teaches and what he leads people to experience are dimensions of the matrix, different layers, different levels, different visuals. I have experienced a lot of the same or similar, not same, definitely not same, but similar visuals when I did astral projection and when I explored these dimensions in my earlier years, just out of fun and out of curiosity. But the access point could be through the heart, access point to the true fabric of divinity, what the yoga sutras or what the yoga teachings call the true self, or the self with the capital S. And I think Robert Monroe calls it supreme love or something like that, SL. That true essence of the soul that's outside of any structure, any visual, any simulation, any experience with any other beings, even the experience of your own self as a human. None of that is within it, within that space. It's the primordial field of information that you can access in different ways. The way I teach it is that you give yourself an out of body experience, and that shuts down the entire structure, that shuts down your brain that's plugged into the matrix, that shuts down your human physical vehicle, because it's always in the way, it's always trying to keep you plugged into the earth plane, and you just go and dissolve into that place and experience the true essence of what you are, who you are, the true essence of the soul, which is truly the field of divine unconditional love. So the true freedom is the experience of the divinity of the self, that true big with capital S, the true self. And once you experience that, living on earth becomes easier, because you can see that it's just a little game here,
Yeah.
although it might not seem so little when you're in it, and it does its best to keep us fixated and focused just on that because of how much energy it requires to just be here, and deal with everyday stuff and deal with all kinds of things that they're bombarding us with in the unnatural, inverted reality here. But it still becomes easier. The human experience becomes easier because you know who you are. And there are so many teachers on the internet, there's so many spiritual teachers, they all talk about knowing who you truly are. And the level of understanding that people experience of what that means depends on where they have been and what they can grasp. Because you and I can have a completely different meaning of what it means to be the true self.
Yeah.
Other people think something entirely different, but we are here to show it, to open the door, even drop the words in there so that they keep searching, so that they keep looking for it and going deeper and deeper. And I think this is really the essence of the journey here. And that's finding that deep connection and finding that essence of your true soul. And then after your body perishes, you can go and return back into that essence, not into some dimension that is going to look heavenly or not so heavenly, not in front of the council that is going to show you the choices that they made with you on the way into the incarnation, and then they're going to judge you for it when you come back out.
Right.
How so interesting, right? They're gonna say you didn't do so good, but on the way in, they were like, oh, you're gonna do this and that to learn the lessons. So none of that We don't want to go there. We want to go back and be reabsorbed, redissolve into the true essence of the soul. And that's the best place, the best feeling, the best, most liberated experience you can give yourself. And you can have that experience while still alive. The reason I teach this and the reason I encourage people to give themselves this experience while still alive, so that when their body lets go at the last breath, they're not confused.
Right.
So that they're not confused as to, oh, what do I do now? Here are these angels. Here's this tunnel of light. Here's this heavenly realm. What do I go in there? So that they're not confused as to where to direct their spirit form or their soul once the body lets go of it. When you make it a skill, when you make it familiar, when you make experience of the true essence of yourself familiar, be that access through the heart portal, through the portals of the suns, like you talk about, or in the way that I teach out of the top of the head. It doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference is that you learn
Yeah.
who you are and where to direct yourself at the moment of passing. And that's all. That's all that is.
Yeah, for sure. I think with my work with the heart, it's just a constant coming back and breathing into this infinite space of going through the eye of the needle into the heart that opens up into all that is, and all that can ever be. It's like it's an access point there, and the more that I'm bringing my awareness to my heart, then it's almost like it's right here, that space that you're talking about, that part of myself beyond all matrix constructs. It's right here in front of my face. I just have this overlay of all this static and all this stuff in front of it. But when I can tap into it and then remind myself throughout the day and just keep returning, 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 then it's just a breath. And I can be in that infinite space with just a simple awareness of breath in my day. And as soon as I find myself getting caught up in the rigmarole, of
Yeah.
life, then I can just stop and take a few breaths, and I'm right there. And I know that this is just a story. It's just distraction by design, I call it. Like,
Yeah.
like this whole simulation is quite brilliant, really. The way that it's
Oh, yeah.
built as clever as can be, but
Yeah.
everything is distraction by design so that we have no time to pay attention to what's right here. It's so right here that we have to be kept so distracted so that we don't see it and tune into it. But if we do, and then we can make that our regular practice through your methods, through my methods of the heart, whatever methods, you make it your practice, you make it your focus, then you hold on to that. And then hopefully you've got a chance when you go through the big ride of transitioning from this life, you actually have a good grip on that and you can ride that to freedom.
Yeah, and I have seen what you talk about through the heart, because that's a part of the private sessions that I was doing with people for 15 years, and literally the visual once you get to the heart center and you help them energetically to clean up all the gunk that's right here that has been collected into the energy field, all the records of traumas, all the records that the heart center holds a lot of stuff. But once you help them clear it, or if they cleared it themselves, it just shoots out like a beam straight into the infinite, straight into the infinite. And I always, in my sessions, I was talking about restoring, reactivating the channel of the heart that gives you access to all that you are, dimension to dimension, form after form, all the way into the formless dimension of unconditional love. These are literally my words, and they have been recorded hundreds of times in my private sessions, because I have seen that.
Yeah.
Once the person lets go, and maybe they let go right at the moment while they are being worked on, because they give themselves permission to dive into that space that you talk about. It's like poof, that beam shoots out and it goes straight into that infinity. It's incredible. And I literally have had visuals of that. So yeah, very powerful subject here for sure. Yeah. All right. And I wanted to ask you this. What do you think, or have you had regressions? And what do you think about regressions?
I did. I've had a couple of the Dolores Cannon style QHHT regressions, and two of them. And one of them was the second one that I did was really, really interesting. And there's a format that they follow, where you
Yeah, yeah.
drift away and then you go to another life that has had relevance for you to understand. And I went and discovered that I was a son. And that was the life. And and even in my slightly hypnotized state, I was like, wait, I'm a son? Like I was so surprised.
Mm.
And I saw myself as living an incarnation as a son. And then,
Wow.
you get brought to the end of that. And then I saw myself, that sun went supernova or whatever suns do at the end of their cycle. And then I was floating and was
Mm,
free. And then had the experience of taking an interest in this planet,
mm,
actually. And I actually have the memory now because I had that experience of rolling into a fetus and
mm,
kind of just coming into this life from a place of freedom. So I do have the experience myself of coming in. I don't have experiences here before this life on this planet, but I have the experience of choosing to come in. And I
mm.
feel that sense of sovereignty and I feel that sense of freedom, and I don't feel entrapped here. And I know it's slippery because I know that you will also tell the same story, that you came in as a volunteer and you came in with freedom, but got ensnared here because that's what the system is designed to do. But I truly do feel a sense of that I've got a free ticket in and out. To just be here. And so, like, why the drive? I have such a drive to understand this matrix system and map the way out as well. And it's been a huge passion of mine. But I think it's part of my kind of gift to give is to help map these things as much as I don't feel trapped myself. It's also nice. It's a nice insurance policy also to make sure that you don't get entrapped.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, with all that, I still say better safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Because I just finished Robert Monroe's Far Journeys. And he talks about that whole thing that the first timer comes into Earth, and that Earth plane has the quality that serves like an addiction to the soul. And so that first time I might come in and say, yeah, just gonna come in for this one time. But on the way out, they are already somewhat addicted or hooked into the Earth experience. And then, let me just do one more. Or let me just, and let me just, and then they start going lower and lower in the experience. And then the next thing they know, they don't even recall that previous reality where they came from, because the earth plane is set up that way. That's what was in Robert Monroe's book. And so I always say better safe than sorry. Have the technique for the way out. Have the awareness of where you want to go, even though you believe that you have a ticket out, which I think is a big part of the whole thing. Like you need to know that you can get out. That's important. That's super important. That's the number one thing. If you don't know, then you're not going anywhere. But have that awareness, but still also have the backup plan, the technique anyway. And that's what I believe anyway. But being a the sun, here's the thing, that it doesn't make any difference for this fabric of reality, the essence, the primordial field, the unconditional love, what size of a body you take. You could be a gerbil or you could be a sun, and it makes no difference because it's just an expression of consciousness. And you remembering being the sun is incredible. And I've had a few experiences, or I've worked with a few people who remembered themselves being a star or being a planet, and actually having the consciousness of the planet recalled. And we know that our planet, Earth, the real one, is a conscious living being, right? So it's got a soul, I imagine. It's got the consciousness of itself too. And so you could have been that, or you could have been a sun, or you could have been any expression of life. Of course, having an experience of being the sun, that's fascinating, I think.
What about you?
Um,
Have you had any experiences with the regression that you want to talk about?
Well, I started this subject with the regression, but I wanted to ask the reason I asked that question is because there is so much information that comes through regressions where people talk about coming into Earth to uh, pay off karma or to learn lessons, or that it is a school, or all these concepts, or that it is an assistance for the soul evolution, and all of that information comes in majority of regressions. Um, People just remembering that in between space where I believe they were conditioned by the system. And that's what they are remembering, and that's what they're talking about. But there are so many people who base their understanding of reality on what the books based on regression say and what their clients in regressions say. But if you step out and look at the information that these people are bringing under hypnosis, very often what they are recalling is the agenda that they were conditioned into in the afterlife dimension, the pre-birth dimension, where they were met with the council, or they were met with their loved ones, or where they met with whatever, who were really the archons telling them, oh, now you need to go back and do this, this, and that, and you have a purpose to fulfill, or you have to go and suffer, or you have to go and pay off what you did in the previous. And that's what comes up in regressions.
Yeah.
And this is why I asked you about a regression, if you had that, um, because I wanted to mention this, that very often, in majority of cases, people tap into what they were conditioned into within the dimensions of the matrix, and that's where they're getting that information from. You, your regression experience stands out, and my regression experience stands out as well because I connected directly to my own essence that was outside. It wasn't a being, it wasn't a council, it was just consciousness, my own consciousness from the higher knowing confirming. So I can say that I connected to my higher self in my regression. But I did see a few incarnations there, and I saw people in this lifetime with whom I had shared experiences, and I saw myself in different eras. And I saw myself interacting with non-terrestrial beings, and so there was all that, but all that is the matrix stuff. But then there was also the little voice, or it was actually the knowing. There was no voice. It was just the knowing that confirmed, yeah, you are on the right track right there. And that voice, or I keep calling it a voice, but it was just in the information, like the flow of information, the knowledge that came in, the confirmation was like, yeah, you are on the right track. let's sift through all these matrix experiences, and here's this one drop of truth right there that you are in the entrapment system and you can get out, and you don't need to make a contract with us or anyone or anything. It's just you. It's between you and you.
Beautiful.
Um, so that's the regression that I had, and I only had no, I did have two, but the second one I was working on something specific in the past life,
Mhm.
because that is all intertwined and it is all interconnected. Like, no, like it's not enough that we suffered in this lifetime. We also carry something from the previous lifetime that is also producing loosh from us, that makes us produce loosh in this incarnation also. So how fair is that? Yeah. And that brings me to that point, that what you said, the system is brilliant, the way it's set up is brilliant, and the only way for us to outsmart it, which I don't think we can outsmart it, but the only way for us to get past it is to return to the primal essence of the soul, something we just talked about earlier, and that's it.
Two things I want to comment on that. Your
All
experience
right.
that you shared about your regression. The first time that I had an regression, I did experience something similar, where the man who I was doing the work with, he brings you into your higher self at one point.
Hmm.
And I was in that half hypnotized state. And because of all the work that I have been doing for years, right, for Drumville Melchizedek, for the Awakening the Illuminated Heart workshops, all about going into the heart. And so even in that state, had gotten in touch with my like higher self. And then I thought, well, what happens if I go into, now I'm in the template of my higher self, if I go into the tiny space of my heart within my higher self, not just this self, but then go into the higher and then in, it's like I kind of just started going in further and in further. And when I did that, I ended up connecting with my true essence. Like, because I
Yeah.
went in enough, in further, further. And, um, some new age terms might call it like from first I went to 4D higher self and then into 5D. I don't know that I subscribe to any of those dimensional names or
Yeah.
numbers at this point. I feel like they just might be deeper and deeper layers into the simulation. I don't know.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I touched that place and this part of me came through. And then the guy who was doing the regression said that the room sort of filled up with light and he just had goosebumps everywhere. And this aspect of me came through, that sounds similar to what you were describing of touching that true essence. And it was almost like a maze. I had to go in and in and in
Hmm.
into my heart to get there. So I just wanted to comment on that. That was the first time I actually did one of these past life regressions. And then the second thing, you were talking about how people in these regressions, how they come back and it's almost like they just start spewing out their propaganda that they were
Yeah.
told on the other side. And
Yeah.
that is, you got homework to do, you have loved ones and blah, 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 like the whole thing. And yet, when you look at our world and the people who are living, people pretty much do what they're told and they pretty much just listen to whatever the news tells them, the
Yeah.
majority of people. They're just following the script. So it seems that it would make hardly any difference that on the other side, they die and they're going to kind of have the same approach. If there's a news broadcast telling them they got to go back to Earth or they got karma to work out, they're just going to not even question it and believe it because the distraction by design has got most people, hook, line, and sinker, just kind of buying their little program.
100% on right there. I couldn't agree more, because as above so below has a lot of meaning here, right?
Right.
And you're absolutely right. And this is why what I teach come out of the body, have the experience, look back at the human reality, know that it's false, and instantly the need or the ability or the programming of follow the authority, that falls off instantly, because you see how nonsensical that is. And you were doing the work in along the same lines as well. And so it takes a certain level of interest in this and continuous exploration for the people to even arrive there. And those who have not arrived there, those who keep asking questions, they are making their way there. And those who are not interested, well, for them, I guess there's a simulation, next simulation 2.0 or whatever version that is, and that's coming. So all we can do, you and I and people like myself and those like myself and yourself and those who are doing this work for the world in all earnest and not following what the new age is saying, not following what the um, transmissions from ETs who are running the show here.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Right? Um, or angelics who are guarding the matrix, those who are questioning and finding the authentic, true access to the inner knowing, is those will find their way for sure. And on that subject, really quickly, because I think we're just getting there in time now. But I wanted to ask you, this kind of just automatically came up. So, spirit guides. In my group, I observe there in our group, Exits and Reincarnation group on Facebook, there are people who are saying, "So, do I now switch from my current guides to the guides from outside the matrix? Who do I call into my meditations? Who do I now follow?" Right?
Mhm.
And my question is, why do you need to follow something and give it form, give it shape? There are so many spirits that just want to mess with the human because they can. There are so many, or archons pretend can shapeshift and pretend to be just about anything. Angels guard the matrix as the true higher self. You do not know if you're connecting to that or to something from the simulation unless you really, really are tapped in and have had a deep dive and deep exploration with that. The passed on dead ones, relatives who show up and give information, that's all from the afterlife dimension. So where do you turn? You know what? I say develop that access point into your own higher knowing, and that is the most reliable source of everything. And stop giving your power away to the ones who are floating around and treating the human beings like we need their teaching, like we need their information, like we're little kids here who know nothing. And so let the apparition show up and teach you. So what do you, this is my perspective on the spirit guides. As of today, as of present moment, I, guilty as charged, I have experienced and interacted with all kinds of different types of spirits early in my journey. That's when we were all, and myself included, brainwashed that that's what you're supposed to do. So, what is your perspective on spirit guides as of your present day?
This is a great question. My answer is no, no, no. So I am all about sovereignty and freedom,
Yeah.
and that means
Yes.
self-reliance, self-sufficiency, not looking to anything outside of yourself. And that crosses a whole big gamut to not even like healing tech. And we need devices to do this, and we need this and that. It's like, no, like the work I do is sovereignty training. We have everything we need right inside of ourselves. We just have to learn how to access it. And learning to access my truest self, which you could also sometimes call the higher self, but that can also be a confusing term because if people start to look outside of themselves for something higher, really you can just look in and go deeper in and access your truest self beyond all matrix constructs.
Yeah.
And so it's me, my truest self source. That's it. There's a direct line.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. And there is nothing that I let in. Otherwise, I will not channel. I will not listen to spirit guides. This is a realm of smoke and mirrors. And like you said, anything could present as anything. I don't trust anything. I access it all directly from within. And this way I know I can trust it. especially if I've mapped the way in with clarity. Like you said, you can do it, but it takes focus and concentration. How can you trust that that voice that you're hearing is truly your deepest self, your spirit, beyond like even within this realm, we may have a soul that is, or an aspect of ourselves that is actually part of ourselves, that is part of the matrix. But then
Yeah.
there's a part of us that is actually beyond that, beyond all matrix constructs, right? And so when we exit, I don't even know that anything leaves except for the part that is true spirit. So even the soul aspect, this any sense of self or identity, that if it's part of the matrix, it's not leaving. And so
Yeah.
like not even plugging into that, but plugging into the deep, deep, deep and thinking that we need guides and help and this and that. Like archangels, like, well, what about Archangel Michael? People will often ask me. He's like an archangel, archon, like it's right there in the name. Like
Yeah.
I'm not trusting anything with an archon in front of its name, you know. It could be, he could be a benevolent being, but you know what? I know that I have one directly within, so that's all I'm going to trust and listen to.
And this is why I love you so much. I think this is the best part of our whole conversation. I am into sovereignty. I do sovereignty training, and this is all I believe in. And I agree 100% because when you develop that connection, the channel into your essence, the truest self is a part of the field of consciousness that has all the information within it already. So you truly are tapping into the infinite field of knowledge. You don't need someone, some apparition speaking into you and telling you what they think. You have access to that knowledge directly through your own way, through your own heart, as you teach, or through the outer body experience that I teach, or through just opening the third eye and tuning into that. It's your third eye is like an antenna. You can get information that way. And this is how nowadays I receive answers. This is how I receive information too. And there's been a question that a few people or many people wrote to me based on David Icke's book, The Reveal, where, and many other people say that there was a prime Earth before. And so, have you seen the prime Earth? And I was like, I never try to look for a prime Earth. That was not my concept, or not something that I was curious about. But after I was asked that a number of times, I figured, all right, let me go and tap into that knowledge, the field of knowledge, and look if I can tap into the prime Earth. Well, what I saw was the most pristine planet, lush and full of greens and life and clear skies and pure waters and every life form just in such purity. And there were no humans there.
Mm.
No humans. I literally looked for humans and humans were not there. And so when I came back, I started processing that because the feeling, the state of being, the consciousness of that place was so pure and divine. It was unbelievable, incredible. And then no humans. And
Any beings?
so,
Were there any beings there?
nope.
Wow.
What I got started well, and that was my left brain analyzing afterwards. It was like, how come there's no humans there? And so the answer that I got was prime Earth did not have the simulation, did not have the matrix. The humans are the product of the matrix. We were created with one purpose only, to serve the owners of the matrix. The matrix was installed, the humans were created. At least this is the within this final or recent, not final, within this recent cycle of human history. So the humans were not there on the prime Earth. Interesting, right?
Right. And also a reminder that the earth is her own living being. She doesn't
Yeah.
need humans on her to exist in whatever way she is needing to exist. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
Well,
now that we're on Earth, why don't we look at the ways to make the best of it
yeah.
here? And I think that would be a good way to close our very awesome conversation.
I think so. And because I think it is possible to look at all these things and not get drowned into a pit of despair. It is
Yeah.
entirely possible. And this is how I live my life. I look the matrix and the reality square in the face and process it for what it is. And sometimes if it's a little heavy, looking into this or looking into that, whatever, I let myself assimilate it and then I rise up. And so then I can be holding it all. So it is possible to hold it all, to know what's going on here, to know that we're just really on a prison planet factory farm for Loosh and still be in joy anyway. Like it's kind of my personal motto, like be
Yeah.
in joy anyway. I have it written right next to my light switch in my bedroom. Every day I see it, be in joy anyway, because what else is there to do, right?
Yeah.
Like just to be light, to be love. And so the way for me to do that personally is to stay close to nature.
Mhm.
And because nature is organic and it's not edges and synthetics, and it has its own natural life. And so I do my barefoot walking every day. I only wear natural fibers. I only eat organic food. I limit my screen time. I keep it on black and white. I don't use LED lights, and I just meditate and breathe and hang out in my yard and play and have dance parties every day and just do all the things that would help me just be joyful regardless, because as Carlos Castaneda would call it, controlled folly. You know exactly what's going on here, but you choose to play like it's just a theater, but you play at it without attachment, but still have fun with it. So
Yeah.
controlled folly, right? Like I love that term. So that's my approach to having a joyful life while we're in this crazy prison planet. And so I'd love
Yeah.
to hear what you want to share about that too.
Yeah, and I am very much on the same page with you. I can say, well, the same list right there is what you just said is the description of my experience here as well. And we're in it already. There's nothing we can do except get depressed. And why get depressed? You're in it. This is the reality, and you're going to be in this reality for the rest of your incarnation, for the rest of this lifetime, and those who fail to launch, probably for eternity after that. But you're in it already. Might as well do the best you can with it. And this comes with taking care of the body vehicle, making sure that you are conscious in your choices, and also including the service to others, bring in the all that you can offer,
Yeah.
abilities and time and kindness and heart and gifts and presence to those who are in need, those who need you, or those who are following, or those who you can be of assistance, those who are inspired by your experience. And very often we don't really need to do anything more than just be an inspiration for someone. A lot of, I mean, if you look at children, children don't listen to what you say. And quite frankly, very few grown-ups do either, right? But most grown-ups just hear what's inside their own head and not what you're telling them. So that's an observation of the human condition there. But kids, children, and grown-ups both, they are mostly influenced by experience, by inspiration, meaning if they see someone who can walk the earth with the full spectrum of awareness of what's going on, but still being in the positive attitude, laid back and joyful, and not really super entangled with the whole thing, although in full awareness of it. Others say, wow, I want to do this too, and I want to be the same way too. And so you live in the way you are living and managing your own reality, me living in the way I'm living and managing my own reality. That ripples out, that helps others, that inspires others, and that also lets others know that you don't need to pull hair and freak out and get depressed because you are in this simulated prison planet or whatever that is. Yeah, create your reality so that you can enjoy it while you're on Earth. Otherwise, it's a miserable experience all the
Right.
way through, right? Why
And
do this to yourself?
misery feeds the loose. Like
For sure.
there's this place where like really bad experiences and suffering can feed the louche, but so can attachment and overly good experiences too. So it's like finding that kind of sacred neutral where you're just enjoy,
Yeah.
but you're not attached. You're living lightly. You're making yourself useful. Like that's, I think, the best way to navigate it so that you're not getting ensnared even more.
Brilliant, brilliant words about attachment for sure, because all attachment is an expression of ego, right? Oh, I have to be enjoyed no matter what, so that's an attachment also, but the attitude of neutrality is much easier to attain for majority of the population than going from misery straight into joy. So go into that neutral, peaceful state of being.
Yeah,
I
call it the sacred neutral. And I really,
Yeah,
so this is not just neutrality in a bland way. It has a different
yeah,
effervescence to it.
that for sure, for sure. And that comes with the peaceful heart. And
Yeah.
when your heart is peaceful, you are able to carry on your shoulders yourself and others if you're doing that, and offer what you're here to offer, and then calmly, peacefully step out at the end of this incarnation, and have the feeling that you are complete. When
Mm.
you have that feeling, you're complete and you're ready, and you just go where you have paved the way, where you have found access into through your experiences in during this lifetime while still alive. I think that's the way to do it, and that's the way out of the simulation, out of the prison planet, and back into the divine, truest essence of ourselves that we truly are.
I think in closing, I will just say that the reminder that how this matrix continuously offers to contract us in. And we can just say, no, thank you. No, I'm just going to stay in my heart. I'm not going to buy into the fear. I'm not going to buy into the drama. I'm not going to buy into the story. No, thanks. I'm just going to stay here in my heart. No, thanks. And just holding that space.
Yeah. All right.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you. My deepest gratitude for your wisdom, for your presence, for your input. I always, always enjoy our interactions. I
Thank
always
you.
enjoy how much we are on the same page, and the wisdom of the true sun is shining through you. Thank you for your time today and
Oh, this was
for
really fun. Thank you too. Yeah, what a fun way to just have a conversation and get to share it with others. Because people sometimes some people don't have another person to bounce these kind of conversations off with. So we're kind of just letting other people kind of sit in on our conversation. So what a
yeah,
sweet offering. So thanks for inspiring this.
my pleasure. We'll do it again sometime.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.